Caleb Lawson stood in the glass corner office of his downtown Austin high-rise, watching the city hum beneath him like a living machine. His reflection stared back tailored charcoal suit, polished shoes, salt and pepper hair cut with ruthless precision. From the outside, he looked like a man who had it all. Billionaire, builder, power broker. But inside was static. The office behind him was quiet, the kind of quiet money bought. Everything from the custom furniture to the panoramic skyline view was curated perfection. He had closed a $60 million deal before lunch, yet he felt nothing. Not pride, not joy, not even relief. His phone lit up. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. The last thing he needed was a spam call, breaking the illusion of control he wrapped around his life like armor. But something made him tap, accept. Mr. Lawson. A woman's voice, calm but urgent. This is Dr. Celeste Rios from St. David's Medical Center. He blinked. The hospital. Yes, he said slowly. What's this about? I'm calling regarding a patient, Maya Jensen. The name dropped like a stone in his chest. Maya. 6 months since the divorce. No contact. Not a word. She had disappeared from his life like a ghost. She was admitted early this morning with complications. The baby, her son, was delivered at 32 weeks. His jaw tightened. His thoughts scrambled to make sense of the words. I'm sorry. What she listed you as the father, Mr. Lawson. The room tilted. You're saying, Maya named me, yes, sir. A pause. She insisted. His mind scrambled through dates, timelines, memories he'd locked away. The final stretch of their marriage had been cold, detached, two people sharing space and silence. But there was one night. A single, desperate night. He ran a hand over his face, trying to steady himself. How is she? She's stable, recovering from an emergency C-section. The baby is in the NICU. There's no one else listed as family. He stared out over the skyline again, the city suddenly distant. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and turned from the window, already stripping off the jacket that had cost more than some people's rent. He didn't buzz Darla, his assistant. He didn't explain. He just walked out. The ride to the hospital blurred past tree-lined streets and traffic lights he barely registered. His heart thudded, not from panic. He didn't panic, but from something heavier. Something that had no name yet. He hadn't seen Maya in half a year. The last time had been in a sterile law office, signing away a marriage neither of them knew how to save. She'd looked thinner, her voice calm but distant. No drama, no tears, just the cold, clean end of a 5-year relationship that had burned hot and crashed harder. They hadn't spoken since, not even to say goodbye. Inside the hospital, the air smelled like antiseptic and nerves. He gave his name to the front desk, and the nurse, barely 20, clearly flustered, sent him upstairs. People still knew who he was. The maternity ward was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines behind closed doors. Dr. Rios met him near the nurses' station. She was in her late 40s, tall, with dark eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Lawson. Thank you for coming. I need to see her. She's sedated, but stable. He nodded once. The baby? Her expression softened but remained clinical. Premature. 2 pounds 9 ounces. He's in the NICU. He didn't ask to see him yet. He couldn't. Not before facing Maya. Room 312. He stood outside the door, hand resting on the handle, suddenly unsure. What did you say to the woman who had named you the father of her child? What if she was wrong? What if she wasn't? He opened the door. Maya lay in a hospital bed, pale against crisp sheets, her hair tangled around her face. An IV snaked into her arm. Her chest rose and fell slowly. She looked nothing like the fierce, ambitious woman he'd once admired. She looked breakable, and that terrified him. As if sensing him, her eyes fluttered open. Groggy, then sharp. "You came," she whispered. "You listed me as the father of your child. You picked up." He stepped closer, his voice low, controlled. "Is it true?" She didn't flinch. "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" She looked away. "I tried. You changed your number. Your assistant blocked me at the office." He didn't argue. It was true. After the divorce, he'd made it very clear, no contact. A clean cut. You could have tried harder. She turned back to him, and the look in her eyes stopped him. "You wanted me gone, Caleb. And I was exhausted from trying to stay." Silence sat between them. Heavy. Unforgiving. "I didn't find out until 2 weeks after the papers were signed," she said. "And by then I wasn't sure if I was ready to drag you into something you clearly didn't want." His jaw worked. "You don't get to make that decision for me." "No, I didn't. But I had to make one for me, and for him." The door creaked open. A nurse leaned in. "Mr. Lawson, would you like to see your son?" He froze. That word, son. Maya didn't look at him. "Go," she whispered. "He's waiting." He followed the nurse through a narrow hallway into the NICU. Rows of incubators lined the room, each holding a life too new, too fragile. She stopped at one near the back. Inside was the smallest human he'd ever seen. Tubes, wires, monitors, a faint layer of dark hair on a head no bigger than his palm. "He's doing better than expected," the nurse said softly. "You can touch him through the port." He hesitated, then reached in. His finger brushed the baby's hand. The baby's fingers curled around it. A breath caught in his throat. That's when it hit him. This tiny person, this boy, was real, and he was his. No deal had ever felt like this. No amount of money had ever made him feel so unsure, so protective, so seen. He stayed longer than he meant to. When he finally pulled away, the nurse asked quietly, "Would you like to leave a name for the chart?" He glanced back at the baby. "Noah," he said, the name escaping without thought. Maya's grandfather's name, he remembered. The nurse smiled gently. "Noah Jensen Lawson." He nodded slowly. "Yes, that sounds right, and for the first time in years it did." If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. The air in the NICU was colder now. Or maybe it was just Caleb standing frozen in front of the incubator. The name tag had been added while he stepped out for coffee he didn't drink. Noah Jensen Lawson. The weight of that name felt heavier than anything he'd ever signed his name to. And he'd signed skyscrapers into existence. Behind him, soft footsteps. You named him. Maya's voice, hoarse but awake, drifted in like a breeze he hadn't felt in months. He turned. She was in a wheelchair, a nurse gently rolling her forward, her hospital gown swallowing her frame. She looked smaller than he remembered. Not weak, but worn down like something important had been burning inside her too long. "I didn't think you'd want to see him this soon," he said. "I couldn't sleep." She didn't meet his eyes. "The nurse said you'd come." Her gaze moved to the incubator. Caleb stepped aside. Maya wheeled closer slowly, like she was afraid one wrong breath would shatter everything. For a moment they both just looked. Then she whispered, "Noah." Her lips curved slightly. "You remembered my grandfather's name?" Caleb nodded. It was the first thing that came to mind. It felt right. They stood in silence, side by side, separated by years of pride, silence, and now a sheet of plexiglass. "I held him," Caleb said quietly. Maya's eyes widened just enough. "How did it feel?" "Like nothing I've ever done before," he admitted. Which is saying a lot. Maya nodded, lips pressed tight, fighting back whatever storm was behind her eyes. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said finally. when I found out we weren't talking. And I knew how clean you wanted the break. You still should have told me. I tried, she snapped, then caught herself pressing a hand to her chest like the emotion had snuck out too loud. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Her eyes were already wet, blinking rapidly to stay strong. I called. I emailed. I even came to your office. But Darla said you were traveling, always busy, always booked, no personal drop-ins. She gave a small, bitter laugh. Classic Caleb. His jaw clenched, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. I had no idea. She looked at him finally. And if you had? The question sat between them sharp-edged and waiting. I don't know, he said truthfully. Maybe I would have run. Maybe I would have stood here like I am now. Scared out of my mind. Honest, she said, nodding once. That's new. The nurse stepped away to give them privacy. The machines kept up their steady rhythm. Caleb ran a hand over his face, then down the back of his neck. The man in the mirror back at Lawson Tower would never have let this moment happen. But he wasn't there now. I never wanted a child, Caleb said. I always thought I wouldn't know how. My dad wasn't around. My mom worked 2 jobs and barely looked up. I had nannies and silence. Maya's voice softened. So did I. Just replace nannies with cold breakfasts and locked bedroom doors. They both looked at the baby again. Small, hooked to tubes, fighting for every breath. I didn't want to repeat the pattern, he said. Neither did I. Another beat of silence. He looks like you, she murmured, tilting her head. Caleb smiled faintly. I was thinking he had your mouth. She glanced at him, then away. Guess we're both stuck with each other now. He turned toward her fully. I don't want this to be stuck. Maya blinked. What do you mean, I mean? He took a breath. I don't know what this is yet, but I don't want to handle it like a spreadsheet. I don't want you to think I'm just going to sign a check and walk away. A flicker of something passed across her face. Uncertainty, hope, caution. I don't need a check, she said. I know, you've never needed me for that. Then what do you want? He hesitated. Not because he didn't know, but because it terrified him to admit it out loud. I want to know him. I want to be there. Whatever that means. And I want to do right by you, too. She let out a slow breath. You say that now. But when the next big deal comes in, or your board starts breathing down your neck. I walked out of a $10 million pitch today without blinking, he said. Her eyes widened slightly. You did, he nodded. Didn't even tell Darla why, and she didn't implode. She might be on fire as we speak. That earned the smallest smile. It disappeared just as quickly. Why now? Maya asked. Why this baby? Why me? He paused, then stepped closer just enough that his voice could lower. Because when I touched him, I felt something real. For the first time in maybe years. He looked at her, then really looked at her. Past the hospital gown. Past the tired eyes. And because I remember the woman I married, not the one I divorced. Maya's throat moved like she was trying to swallow a sob. I'm not her anymore. Neither am I, he said. The nurse returned quietly. Sorry to interrupt. We need to reposition the baby for his next feeding cycle. Maya nodded and turned the wheelchair slightly to face Caleb. You should go. You've probably got 1,000 fires to put out. He didn't move. You'll come back, she asked softly. Tomorrow morning, he said. First thing. She nodded, folding her hands in her lap. As he walked toward the exit, her voice caught him. Caleb, he turned. Thank you. He didn't say anything, just nodded once and left. In the hallway he paused and looked back through the small NICU window. Maya was leaning forward slightly, whispering something to the baby. Her fingers rested just outside the glass. And for the first time in years, Caleb felt something unfamiliar and terrifying and raw in his chest. A want that had nothing to do with control. He wanted to be there, not as the billionaire, not as the ex, just as the father, and maybe someday as something more. The morning sun spilled over the glassy skyline of Austin as Caleb pulled into the parking lot of St. David's Medical Center. His tailored shirt was wrinkled from being slept in. His usual routine coffee news briefings email sweeps had been left behind. None of it felt urgent anymore. He hadn't been able to sleep. Not with the sound of monitors still echoing in his ears. Not after watching Maya whisper something to their son through the glass, her hand unmoving, her lips trembling. And now he was back. He stepped off the elevator and headed toward the NICU without checking in at the desk. The nurses already knew him. He nodded politely to one as she passed him a clean gown. Maya was there. Again. This time she wasn't in a wheelchair. She was standing barefoot, wrapped in a pale blue hospital robe, hair loosely tied back. She was watching Noah sleep, her fingers pressed gently against the incubator window. "You're early," she said softly, without turning. "You're up." "I couldn't sleep." She finally looked at him. Again. He stepped beside her. "How is he better this morning?" The night nurse said his oxygen levels have stabilized. She smiled faintly. That's the word they use when they want to keep you from panicking. Caleb's jaw tightened. "And is it working?" "No." She paused. "But it helps hearing it out loud." They stood in silence for a while, watching Noah's tiny chest rise and fall. "You came back," she said. "I said I would. I didn't think you'd mean it. I didn't used to mean a lot of things." She gave him a look, wary, cautious. "I remember," she said. "You used to promise you'd be home for dinner, for vacations. For me." "I know. I stopped believing you before the ink dried on the prenup." The words stung more than he expected. But he didn't argue. "I deserved that," he said. "Probably more." She blinked visibly, caught off guard by his admission. "That's new," she said after a beat. "Self-awareness." He glanced at her. "I'm working on it." They both turned back to the baby. Maya's voice dropped. "Do you remember that night?" His stomach tightened. "The night this happened?" She nodded. "I remember every second, so do I." There it was. The night neither of them talked about. December 15th. The night of the Thompson deal closing. They'd had champagne. Talked like people who still cared. Then just once more they'd ended up in bed. One night. One flicker of what had once been. And the next morning the walls went back up. "I thought it didn't mean anything," she said, "but I guess it meant everything." He looked at her. Really looked. "You didn't tell me. I didn't think you'd care." That one hurt more than he expected. I would've. "You were already gone, Caleb. Even when you were home." He sighed, hands in his pockets. "You're right. I didn't know how to stay. I didn't know how to show up." Maya didn't say anything. Then, from behind them, a voice. "Well, this is unexpected." They turned. Lauren stood in the doorway, arms crossed, one eyebrow raised. Maya's best friend. Non-profit director. Unofficial bulldog. She wore jeans, a gray tee, and an expression that could slice through steel. Lauren, Maya said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "You didn't answer your phone." "Again?" Her gaze flicked to Caleb. "And I figured if you weren't dead, you were being complicated." Caleb offered a slight nod. "Good to see you too." She looked him up and down. "Still own a comb, I see. I do my best." Lauren turned to Maya, her expression softening. "You okay?" Maya nodded. "I'm managing." Lauren walked over to the incubator, Her face changed instantly. "Oh, Maya," she breathed. "He's beautiful." Maya smiled. Tiny but mighty. Lauren studied the baby for a long moment, then turned back to Caleb. "So what's your role in this? Maya named me the father. I'm here to figure out how to be one." Lauren narrowed her eyes. "Is that what this is? Figuring things out?" Caleb didn't flinch. "That's all I've got right now." "Well," she said, pulling out her phone. "In case that doesn't work out, there's a long list of people ready to step up for Maya and Noah." Lauren. Maya's voice was low. What? Lauren glanced back at her. "He doesn't get a free pass just because he showed up once." "I came back," Caleb said. Lauren looked at him. For how long, Caleb didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, he looked back at Noah. Then to Maya. "As long as they'll let me." Maya studied him. "Let's take it one day at a time," she said. Lauren sighed. "Well, I brought food. Real food. Not whatever vending machine sandwich you've been living off." She turned to Maya. "Come eat. You're pale." Maya hesitated. "I'll stay," Caleb said gently. "With him. If that's okay." Maya looked between them. Something unreadable in her eyes. Then she nodded. "Just stay close, always," he said. As the two women left, Caleb turned back to the incubator. Noah moved slightly in his sleep, a small hand twitching. He placed a fingertip near the glass. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "But I want to." And for the first time, that felt like enough to begin. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know if not. Comment 2. Your thought matter to me either way. The soft hum of the NICU machines was the only sound in the room, a quiet chorus of beeps and whirs, marking time in a place where every breath mattered. Caleb sat beside the incubator elbows, resting on his knees, eyes locked on his son. Noah's chest rose and fell in small, uneven rhythms. So tiny, so delicate. Every now and then, Caleb glanced at the clock on the wall. It was nearly 1 p.m. Maya and Lauren had been gone almost 40 minutes. He wasn't worried. Not really, except he was. He'd built towers taller than trees and negotiated deals so complex they made grown men sweat, but this helpless stillness, it was undoing him from the inside. He leaned forward, peering through the incubator's port fingers, gently brushing the clear plastic edge. "You're tough," he whispered. "Just like your mom." She never gives up. Never folds. Noah shifted slightly, a small movement, but enough to make Caleb's breath catch. He didn't hear the door open. Mr. Lawson Caleb stood immediately. Dr. Rios stood just inside the doorway, her expression unreadable. She didn't smile. His gut tightened. "Yes, we need to talk." He followed her down the hall into a small consult room. Neutral colors, soft lighting, a single table, 2 chairs. She didn't sit. Neither did he. "There's been a development in Noah's condition," she said quietly. The words hit like ice. His oxygen levels dipped again overnight. Minor. But paired with an elevated white blood cell count. "We're concerned about a possible infection." Caleb's jaw tensed. How serious Dr. Rios met his eyes. It could be nothing, a precaution. But in preemies, even minor infections can escalate quickly. His mind scrambled for something to hold on to. "What's the plan?" "We've started a round of antibiotics. We'll monitor closely. If there's no improvement in the next 12 hours, we'll run more aggressive diagnostics." 12 hours. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Does Maya know I was coming to tell her next?" He hesitated. "Let me." The doctor gave him a long look, then nodded. Back in the hallway, Caleb spotted them, just returning. Maya had changed into soft leggings and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back tighter now, but her face was pale. Lauren carried a tote bag over one shoulder, talking about something that made Maya shake her head with a tired smile. She saw him waiting and immediately stopped walking. "What is it?" Caleb stepped forward. "We need to talk. Alone." Lauren's eyes darted between them. "I'll go grab coffee." She handed the tote to Maya without a word and walked briskly away. Maya's fingers tightened around the strap. "Just say it." "Dr. Rios said his levels dropped again," Caleb said gently. "They think it might be an infection. They've started antibiotics." She blinked once, then again. Her body didn't move, but her hands trembled against the fabric of the bag. "I just held him," she whispered. "He looked better." "He did," Caleb said. "He still does. But they're not taking chances." For a moment she said nothing, then her voice cracked. "Why does everything have to be a fight for him? He didn't ask for any of this, not the divorce, not the stress, not this hospital." Caleb reached out cautiously. His hand hovered over hers. She didn't pull away. "I know," he said. "It's not fair." She finally looked at him. "If anything happens, it won't. You don't know that." "No," he admitted. "But I'm here. Whatever comes next, we're in it together." Tears pooled but didn't fall. She nodded slowly, pressing the back of her hand to her mouth. "Let's go sit with him," she whispered. "He shouldn't be alone right now." They walked back to the NICU side by side. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. The machines continued their quiet rhythms, and every change on the monitor made Maya flinch. At some point, Lauren returned and sat quietly in the corner, giving them space, but refusing to leave altogether. Caleb stepped out briefly to take a call from Darla. She was panicked. Clients were asking questions. Meetings had been missed. The Thompson deal was waiting on his signature. "I can't talk right now," he said, staring through the glass window at his son. "But Caleb," I said, "not now." He hung up. When he stepped back into the NICU, Maya was still there, whispering to Noah. Her hand hovered just above the glass. "I used to think strength was never needing anyone," she said, without looking at him. "Now I realize it's showing up anyway, even when you're terrified." Caleb sat down beside her. "I thought success meant control," he said. "But this—" He nodded toward Noah. "There's no controlling this, only being present for it." Their eyes met. A long, aching moment passed between them, the kind that didn't need words. Suddenly a sharp tone came from the monitor. Both of them jumped. Nurses rushed in. Dr. Rios appeared within seconds. "What's happening?" Maya gasped. "His temperature spiked, one nurse said. We're adjusting the treatment." Caleb instinctively moved in front of Maya, steadying her as she swayed slightly. "Is he—" "We're on it," Dr. Rios said calmly, but her expression was tight. "We need you to step out for a moment." Maya hesitated. Caleb placed a hand on her shoulder. "Come on. Give them space." They walked into the waiting room in silence. Once seated, Maya broke. Her hands covered her face as her shoulders shook. Caleb sat beside her. Then, slowly, without a word, reached over and took her hand in his. This time she didn't let go. Not after a second. Not after a minute. And when she finally looked at him, eyes red, voice raw, she asked quietly, "What if I can't do this alone?" He met her gaze. "You're not alone anymore." And for the first time, she believed him. The lights in the NICU had dimmed slightly for the night cycle, casting soft halos around each incubator. Outside, Austin had gone quiet, rain tapping lightly against the windows in rhythmic waves. Inside, the world narrowed down to a small glass-enclosed crib, and two people who hadn't shared real silence like this in years. Caleb sat beside Maya, both of them watching Noah sleep. The fever had broken. His color was better. The monitors had settled into a more forgiving pattern. For the first time in over a day, the pressure in Caleb's chest loosened. Maya let out a breath she'd been holding since morning. I didn't realize how fragile peace feels until now. Caleb glanced at her. It's terrifying. She nodded, folding her arms. I used to think strength meant being unshakable. Now I think it means staying even when everything feels like it's falling apart. I'm staying, he said. For both of you. Her eyes flickered cautious. You say that like it's simple. It's not. But it's honest. Maya didn't answer. Instead, she stood and walked to the window at the far end of the ward. Her shoulders were drawn tight, her fingers wrapping around each other as if they didn't quite know where to rest. Caleb followed slowly. I keep thinking about the gallery, she said quietly. I haven't been back in weeks. I left everything on pause the day I went into early labor. Who's running it? No one. She turned her face, tired but composed. I had to let my assistant go. Business slowed down months ago. The rent's gone up twice since last year, and most of my artists are struggling to sell even half of what they used to. Caleb's brow furrowed. Why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't want to need help? She said, a sharpness creeping into her voice, especially not from you. His jaw flexed, but he kept his tone even. I'm not trying to save you, Maya. I'm trying to understand you. That's new, she said bitterly, then immediately regretted it. She pressed a hand to her forehead. I'm sorry. That was... No, he interrupted gently. You're right. I didn't ask. I assumed. I do that a lot. She sat down on the narrow bench under the window, the kind that was more for pacing parents than actual comfort. It's not just the gallery. Everything I built was tied to independence, to proving I didn't need anyone else to make it work. Now I'm here with a baby, in an incubator, no income, and the one person I promised myself I wouldn't rely on sitting beside me every day. Caleb sat next to her, close but not crowding. You think that makes you weak? I don't know what it makes me. I just know I don't recognize myself right now. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've spent my entire life building walls. Around my name, my company, my reputation. I thought if I had enough success, no one would see what I was hiding. Maya looked over. And what's that? A man who didn't think he deserved real connection. Her eyes softened. She didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, why now? Caleb, why are you really here? He didn't blink, because when I saw Noah, I felt something crack open. I wanted to protect him. And not from the outside world, from myself. From the version of me that always chooses the deal, the meeting, the out. Maya stared at him. He continued, voice lower now. And because I looked at you in that hospital bed and I realized I still care, more than I should, more than I know what to do with. Maya looked away sharply. Her voice trembled. That's dangerous, Caleb. Don't say that unless you mean it. I mean it. She stood abruptly, pacing a few steps, hugging her arms. We didn't work the first time. We hurt each other. A lot. I remember. You shut me out. You disappeared into meetings and mergers and private flights and didn't come back for days sometimes. And when you did... Her voice broke. You were already gone. I was scared, he said quietly, of failing you, of being needed in a way I didn't know how to meet. She stopped back, still to him. I never wanted to do this again, she said, barely audible. This standing on the edge of something that might break me. He stood slowly. Then don't stand alone. She turned to face him, eyes wet, shoulders shaking slightly. He took one careful step toward her. We don't have to figure it all out right now, he said. I'm not asking for anything but a chance to show up. Day by day. You don't owe me anything. But Noah deserves both of us trying. Her eyes searched his face, looking for the catch, the hidden clause, the exit plan. But there wasn't one. Finally, she stepped closer just enough that he could hear her breathe. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I." They stood there, a foot of air between them, neither moving, both holding something unspoken. Then the door opened behind them. Dr. Rios stepped in, clipboard in hand. "Good news," she said with a rare smile. "His fever's down. Vitals are stronger than this morning." Maya let out a soft, gasping breath and covered her mouth. Caleb placed a hand on her back, steadying her. "Thank you," she whispered. Dr. Rios nodded. "You can hold him in the morning. Skin-to-skin contact if you're up for it. It's encouraged." Maya's hand went to her chest. "Really, yes. He's ready." The doctor stepped out. They stood in the quiet again, this time lighter. The weight had shifted. Maya looked at Caleb. "Tomorrow," she said. "You should hold him too." Caleb gave her a quiet smile. "I'd like that." Maya sat down again, her shoulders looser now, hands finally still in her lap. Caleb sat beside her once more. No words, just presence. And this time it was enough. The morning came soft and golden sunlight sneaking past the hospital blinds and streaking across the floor like a gentle reminder that the worst might finally be over. For the first time in days, Maya had slept more than an hour. She woke with a start, heart pounding, but the monitors outside her room were calm. No alarms, no rushing footsteps. She sat up, breathing slowly. Then she remembered. Today, she would hold her son. The thought filled her chest with something she hadn't felt in weeks, hope. She changed into a soft cotton dress Lauren had brought her from home, brushed her hair, and tucked the frizz behind her ears. Her hands trembled as she buttoned the last button. It felt like getting ready for a date she wasn't sure she deserved. She made her way down the hall and found Caleb already waiting at the NICU window. He was in a dark sweater and jeans, clean-shaven but tired. His eyes lit up when he saw her. "You look—" He paused. "Like yourself again." She gave a breathy laugh. "That's generous." "No," he said softly. "It's true." They didn't say anything else for a moment, just stood together watching the small rise and fall of Noah's chest. His color was pinker. His tiny hands curled more tightly now, the tremors less pronounced. Dr. Rios entered the room with a nurse and a gentle smile. "You ready, Mom?" Maya nodded, clutching the fabric of her dress to still her hands. The nurse gave instructions as they gently lifted Noah from the incubator and placed him against Maya's chest, skin-to-skin wires and all. His body was warm, fragile, real. As soon as his cheek settled against her, she broke. Tears slipped out without warning. She held her breath, afraid she might start sobbing and scare him, but her body betrayed her. Her hands trembled, her shoulders shook. Caleb reached forward and touched her shoulder, grounding her. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're doing great." Maya nodded, though her voice caught. "He's so small." "He's perfect," Caleb said, eyes locked on their son. She looked at him. Then this man who had once broken her heart and was now trying to earn his way back without demanding a path. There was something in his face that hadn't been there before. Stillness, gratitude, maybe even awe. They sat like that for nearly an hour, barely speaking, just existing in the sacred quiet of new life. Later, after Noah had been gently returned to the incubator, Dr. Rios turned to Caleb. "Your turn." His brows lifted. "Me," Maya smiled softly. "You said you wanted to." He looked unsure, something rare for him, but he nodded. "Yeah. Yes. Let's do it." The nurse helped him settle into the reclining chair. He looked stiff, uncomfortable at first. Then, as Noah was placed against his chest, He froze completely. Maya watched his entire body change. The tension in his shoulders dissolved. His eyes softened, and when he looked down at his son, it wasn't the look of a man figuring out what came next. It was the look of a father. "Hey, little man," he whispered, voice catching slightly. "I'm Caleb. I'm your dad." Maya bit the inside of her cheek. The nurse adjusted the wires, nodded approvingly, and stepped back. "You don't have to say anything," she murmured to him. "But talk to him if you want. He hears you." Caleb looked down again, brushing a finger over Noah's back with the gentlest touch she'd ever seen him give. "I wasn't there when you got here," he said almost to himself. "But I'm here now. I promise I'll be better than I was taught to be. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to figure it out with you." Maya blinked hard. She turned away to give them privacy, but also because something inside her was shifting. Seeing Caleb like this, unguarded, full of fear and love, all tangled together, was undoing her. She stepped into the hallway and leaned against the wall. Lauren's voice came from the corner. "That's either the face of a woman falling in love again, or one remembering exactly why she left." Maya turned to find her best friend holding 2 coffees and a raised brow. "Bit of both," Maya admitted, taking a cup. Lauren leaned beside her. "He's different." "He is. But you don't trust it yet?" "No," Maya said quietly. "Not yet." Lauren sipped her coffee. "That's smart. He broke you once. You don't owe him your heart just because he showed up." Maya nodded. "I know." But Lauren added, glancing through the window to where Caleb sat holding Noah like the world depended on it, "You do owe yourself the chance to figure out whether he's still the same man." Inside, Caleb looked up, caught them watching, and gave the smallest nod. Maya looked at Lauren. "Would it make me a fool to believe he means it this time?" Lauren was quiet for a beat. "No. It might make you brave." Later that afternoon, Caleb joined Maya in the hospital cafeteria. They sat at a corner table by the windows, untouched sandwiches between them. She finally broke the silence. "So what happens after this? What do you mean, when Noah gets better?" "When we leave the hospital." "What's next?" Caleb leaned back. "I don't have a plan." She raised an eyebrow. "You, Caleb Lawson, don't have a plan. I have hopes," he said. "But not a plan. Not yet. Hopes that we co-parent, that we find a rhythm, that I get to see him every day. Maybe more than that. Maybe we figure out who we are now." Maya looked down at her hands. "And if I'm not ready to figure that out, then I wait," he said. "I'm not rushing you. Or this. I just want to be allowed in." The way he said it, it wasn't the old Caleb. It wasn't control dressed up as generosity. It was patience. It was humility. And for the first time in a long time, Maya thought maybe the man who'd once broken her heart was learning how to earn it back, not with grand gestures, but with moments like this. Small, honest, real. 2 weeks passed. Noah's breathing was stronger. His feedings were more consistent. The tubes were fewer now, the alarms less frequent. For the first time, Maya allowed herself to imagine what it might feel like to bring her son home. But home wasn't the same anymore. Not since the gallery lease had gone into default. Not since she'd opened her inbox and found a final notice she couldn't argue her way out of. She sat in the hospital's quiet garden courtyard that afternoon, a paper printout crumpled in her fist. The numbers were clear. She had 10 days to clear the back rent or forfeit the space. Maya leaned back on the bench, closed her eyes, and let the winter sun hit her face. The air smelled faintly of rosemary from the planter beside her. Footsteps approached. She didn't open her eyes. "I saw the email," Caleb said, settling beside her. She flinched. "Lauren." "She was trying not to worry you more," I asked. Maya opened her eyes slowly. Of course you did. He hesitated. Let me help. No. Maya, I said no. Her voice cut sharper than she intended. I've made it this far without being someone's charity case. It's not charity. You're the one who said you didn't want to fix things like a spreadsheet. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to support the mother of my child so she doesn't lose the business she poured 10 years of her life into. She looked at him, then eyes narrowing. You didn't care about that when I was drowning the first time. I didn't see it, he said, and that's on me. But I see it now. Maya shook her head. You can't just throw money at the problem and expect it to make up for everything you missed. Caleb sighed, rubbing his jaw. That's not what this is. Look, I get it. You want to do it on your own. That's who you are. But it's okay to let someone stand beside you. Even if that someone is me. She stared at the crumpled notice in her hand. I was going to ask Lauren for a short-term loan, she admitted. I hate this. I hate needing anyone. You don't need me, he said. But I'm offering. Not because I think you'll fall without me, but because I want you to win, with or without me. Her throat tightened. I don't know how to receive that, she whispered. He nodded slowly. I didn't know how to give it before. They sat in silence, the wind picking up slightly, leaves rustling across the pavement. Finally she asked, what would it look like? What if I said yes? What would you expect, nothing? He looked over at her. Just that you keep doing what you're already doing, being Noah's mom. And being you. The woman who built something from scratch. The woman I couldn't stop watching across a crowded gallery 5 years ago. She blinked, thrown by the memory. You remember that night you wore that green dress? The one with the open back. You were laughing with some sculptor about his work being beautifully awful. I didn't hear anything else the rest of the night. Maya felt her chest ache in a way that caught her off guard. I still have that dress, she murmured. Buried in a box somewhere. Maybe one day you'll wear it again. Somewhere that isn't a hospital. She looked away. Maybe. He stood slowly. Think about it. No pressure. As he turned to walk back toward the building, she called after him. Caleb. He stopped. You really think I can still save it? He met her eyes. I think you're the only one who can. Later that night, she sat at Noah's bedside, humming under her breath. Her son's eyes fluttered beneath closed lids, a soft sigh escaping his tiny lips. The nurse had just removed his feeding tube that morning. A milestone. Another small victory. She felt Caleb step in behind her, his presence familiar now. Grounding. You're quiet tonight, he said softly. I've been thinking. About she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper. The gallery notice. I want to try. One more time. One event. A final exhibit. If I can get the community to show up to buy, I might just clear the debt. Caleb smiled. Good. She hesitated. I could use help, not money. Connections. Publicity. You still have people who listen when you speak. He didn't hesitate. Say the word. I'll make calls first thing. Just one condition. He raised a brow. No rescuing, no speeches, no press release from Lawson Capital about your generous support. He smiled. Deal. She turned back to Noah. It'll have to be small, affordable pieces, local artists, maybe a New Beginnings theme. Caleb sat beside her listening. Her voice grew steadier as she spoke. For the first time in weeks, she sounded like herself. Not just the woman surviving a NICU stay, but the curator, the builder, the woman who knew how to bring art to life. When she finally looked at him again, her eyes were clear. Thank you, she said. For what? For giving me space to find my footing again. He nodded, but something in his voice cracked when he said, I'm just glad I get to see you stand. She didn't say anything more. But she didn't need to. Because in that moment with their son sleeping beside them and a spark reigniting in her chest, Maya felt something she hadn't in a very long time. Possibility. The afternoon sun filtered through the large windows of Maya's apartment, painting the walls in soft golden light. The place smelled faintly of coffee and baby lotion, a quiet combination that made Caleb realize how unfamiliar domestic normalcy felt. Noah was asleep in his bassinet, swaddled in a soft blanket that made him look impossibly small. Maya sat at the dining table with a laptop open in front of her papers, scattered everywhere artist contracts, emails, sponsorship proposals. Her brow was furrowed, hands moving almost frantically over the keys, pausing every few moments to jot a note or adjust a budget spreadsheet. Caleb watched her for a moment, sipping a black coffee from the thermos he had brought. He didn't want to interrupt, but couldn't help the weight of observation pressing in. "You look like a whirlwind," he said softly. Maya didn't look up. "I feel like one," she muttered. "Everything's piling up. I need this gallery to succeed, Caleb. Noah deserves a stable future. I can't let him grow up in uncertainty. I understand," he said. "And you don't have to do it alone?" She finally glanced at him, eyes sharp but tired. "I'm not asking you to fix this." "I know," he replied, lowering his voice. "But I can help where I can. Connections, publicity guidance. Anything you need, I can be there." Maya leaned back, rubbing her temples. "It's not about help. It's about control. Every time you offer something, I feel like there's a catch of fine print I'll regret later." Caleb's jaw tightened. "There's no fine print. I don't want to control you, Maya. I want to see you succeed. For Noah. For you. And maybe for us eventually, if you'll let me." Her eyes softened for a second, but then hardened again. Eventually is a dangerous word. Before Caleb could respond, a knock came at the door. Maya straightened quickly as if expecting trouble. "Come in," she said. The door opened to reveal a man tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a casual blazer and jeans. His presence carried a quiet confidence, a familiar charm that made Caleb's stomach tighten almost instinctively. "Travis Lang," the man said, flashing a bright smile. "I'm here about the gallery." Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly, though he kept his posture relaxed. Maya's expression changed, as well a mixture of surprise and caution. "Travis. What a surprise." "Not really a surprise," he said smoothly. "I called Lauren earlier. She said you might need some support with the upcoming exhibit. I figured I could offer some sponsorship. I love local art, and this New Beginnings theme, brilliant idea." Caleb stepped slightly forward, subtly placing himself between Travis and Maya, though his voice remained measured. "I'm glad you're invested in the gallery, Travis, but I'll be assisting Maya with the preparations." Travis's eyes flicked to Caleb, noting the protective stance, the subtle tension. "Of course, I wouldn't want to interfere. I just thought Maya might appreciate some additional support." Maya glanced between them, clearly sensing the shift in energy. "Travis, I appreciate it, but I have it under control. Caleb and I are coordinating. Under control." Travis smiled slightly, but his gaze lingered on Caleb, a spark of competitiveness flashing. "I didn't realize control was part of the exhibition's theme." Caleb's jaw tightened imperceptibly. "I mean that in the best way. Maya's handling everything. I'm just here for guidance and support where needed." Travis tilted his head slightly, studying Caleb. "Guidance. That's interesting. You two know each other well." Maya spoke quickly, cutting the tension. "We've worked out some family logistics. That's all." Caleb's gaze met hers briefly, a silent reassurance passing between them. Then he turned his attention back to Travis. "No further clarification is needed. I trust Maya's judgment on everything here." Travis smirked but didn't push further. "All right, I can respect that. But if you ever need additional sponsorship or media coverage, don't hesitate to reach out. I have resources and connections." Maya nodded politely, trying to ease the underlying tension. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. As Travis stepped toward the door, he added, By the way, the opening night is going to be incredible. You've done an amazing job bringing these artists together, Maya. Caleb's voice was quiet, but firm. We'll see. We have to make sure everything is ready first. Travis chuckled, shaking his head. Of course. Well, I'll leave you two to it. Once the door closed, the apartment seemed to exhale. Maya leaned against the table, taking a deep breath. That was tense. Caleb ran a hand over his face. He's trying to impress you and stake a claim at the same time. I know, Maya admitted. I can't let anything interfere with this exhibition. Or Noah. Caleb moved closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Nothing will. I'll make sure of it. She looked up at him, the vulnerability returning to her eyes. I'm trying not to let my guard down again, Caleb. You know I can't do that lightly. I understand, he said softly, and I won't ask you to. I just want you to know that you're not in this alone. Whatever happens with the gallery, with Noah with us, if there is an us, you don't have to face it by yourself. Her lips pressed into a thin line, considering. I want to believe that. You can, he said quietly. Step by step. Day by day. That's all I'm asking. Noah stirred in his bassinet, tiny fingers twitching. Maya leaned down to check on him, and Caleb followed her movement instinctively. Their hands brushed briefly as she adjusted the blanket over the baby. Neither of them spoke, but the air between them charged with unspoken emotions, care, worry, and a subtle, growing connection that neither could ignore. Maya straightened again. We need to finalize the guest list for the opening, and invitations, and the press release, and everything. Caleb smiled faintly. Then let's tackle it together. You lead. I follow. Where I can help, I will. She nodded. For the first time that day, her posture relaxed slightly. The weight of responsibility was still there, but it felt shared. Later, as Caleb reviewed a list of potential sponsors, Maya paused and watched him. You're really here, she said softly. I am, he replied. And I'm not going anywhere. She looked down at Noah, then back at Caleb. I hope you're right about that. I am, he said again, voice unwavering this time. And I'll prove it, not with words, but with actions, starting with this gallery, starting with him. Maya exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and cautious hope filling her chest. For the first time in months, the future felt a little less uncertain, the path forward a little less lonely. And though she didn't say it aloud, she knew one truth, whatever challenges lay ahead with the gallery. With Noah, with Caleb, she wouldn't have to face them alone. The room was quiet again, the sunlight warm on their faces, and in that moment, even the tension from Travis's brief intrusion seemed distant. Caleb's presence, steady and unwavering, was enough to remind her that sometimes trust and support could arrive exactly when they were needed most. The sun was starting to dip low over the skyline, bathing Austin in golds and pinks, as Caleb guided Maya and Noah through the sliding glass doors of his downtown loft. The place had never felt so alive and quiet, at the same time alive, because of the faint smells of dinner in the making, the sound of the city humming below, and the tiny stirrings of their son. Quiet because it was a space where decisions, fears, and emotions could finally breathe. Noah was nestled in Maya's arms, swaddled tightly, his small fists brushing against her chest. Every now and then he made the softest noises, half-sleep murmurs that made both adults pause and smile. Caleb followed closely, carrying the diaper bag, watching her navigate the steps with careful precision. Once inside, Maya set Noah down on a blanket laid on the soft rug of the living room. He immediately rolled slightly, exploring the edges of his tiny world with new curiosity. She sat beside him, brushing a hand gently across his back, and glanced up at Caleb. "Do you ever think about how different life would be if we hadn't—" She trailed off. "If we hadn't," what Caleb prompted his voice, soft, careful. She looked down, fingers tracing patterns on the blanket. "If we hadn't divorced. If Noah wasn't here because we'd figured things out sooner." He swallowed. The words cut more sharply than he expected. He'd built walls around these thoughts, told himself they were irrelevant. But hearing her voice so raw and vulnerable made the ghosts of the past stir. "I've thought about it," he admitted. "Every day since the divorce. But we can't change the past. We can only figure out how to be present now." She nodded slowly, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Being present feels complicated, especially with him depending on us. I feel like one wrong move and—" Her voice trailed off. "I know Caleb said reaching out to take her hand. I feel it too. But maybe we don't have to get it perfect. Just together." Her gaze lifted to meet his. "You make it sound so simple. It's not. But we'll learn. Step by step." The quiet was broken by a knock on the door. Both of them glanced up. Maya stood and opened it, revealing Miss Birdie a warm smile and a bag of groceries in hand. "Thought you might need a little help settling in," she said, stepping inside. "Nothing fancy. Just good food and good company." Maya's lips twitched in a small smile. "Thank you. That's thoughtful." Caleb stepped forward. "You've been incredible, Birdie. Noah's lucky to have you." Miss Birdie chuckled softly. "Now don't go getting all sentimental on me, young man. I'm just here to make sure no one starves and no one forgets how to laugh a little." She set the bag on the counter and began unpacking, pulling out fresh breadfruit and prepared dishes. Maya and Caleb exchanged a glance, unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. They needed this. They needed someone grounding someone outside the emotional intensity of the last few weeks. After a few minutes, Miss Birdie handed Caleb a small plate. "Sit, eat, talk. You two look like you've been running on worry fumes for far too long." Caleb took the plate and sat beside Maya on the couch. He felt the tension in her shoulders, the subtle weight she'd been carrying for weeks. So he said, "Picking at the food, tell me about the gallery plans. You've been working on this non-stop." Maya leaned back, fingers brushing against Noah's tiny hand. "I have a short list of artists for the opening exhibit. But I'm worried about the space, the finances, everything." "I don't want to ask you for help again." "You don't have to," Caleb said immediately. "But if I can help with logistics, promotion, or connecting with patrons, I will." Maya studied him, uncertain. "You're really offering this?" "Yes," he said, holding her gaze. "No strings attached, no lectures, just support." Her chest rose and fell slowly, and she finally nodded. "Okay, but we do it together. You handle the contacts, I handle the vision." "Deal," he said, smiling softly. The air between them shifted, charged but comfortable. For the first time in a long while, they were talking as partners, not exes, not adversaries, not distant strangers. Their quiet moment was broken by a familiar knock. Maya frowned. Who could that be now? She opened the door to see Travis Lang standing with a portfolio under his arm. His smile was confident, practiced. "Maya, I heard about the gallery opening. Thought I might drop by with some ideas." Caleb's jaw tightened slightly. He had sensed Travis's subtle presence for a while. A professional ally, but someone whose charm could unsettle the careful balance between him and Maya. "Travis," Maya said, her voice cautious. "I appreciate the interest, but we're already organizing everything." "I know," Travis said smoothly, his gaze flicking to Caleb. "Just thought I'd offer some input. Collaborate, not compete." Caleb's voice was calm but firm. "Collaboration is welcome. Oversight is not. Maya stepped forward. Please, Travis, we'll contact you if we need help. Travis's eyes lingered on Caleb, a flicker of challenge there. Of course, I wouldn't want to overstep. But you both have something good here. Don't let it slip away. As he left, Caleb exhaled slowly. He's persistent. Maya nodded, feeling a mix of relief and unease. He means well, but I don't want outside influences muddling things. Not with Noah, not with the gallery. Caleb placed a hand on her back. Then we set the boundaries. Together. She glanced up at him, and for the first time in weeks she allowed herself to relax against him. I hope we can manage that. We will, he said quietly, confident. They returned to Noah, watching his tiny chest rise and fall, feeling a fragile but growing sense of family forming around them. The gallery, the responsibilities, the challenges, they were daunting, but together they felt possible. And for the first time, Maya realized that perhaps this new chapter with Caleb at her side wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming life, reclaiming trust, and maybe in time, rediscovering love. The late afternoon sun spilled into the hospital waiting area, casting long shadows that danced across the linoleum floor. Maya sat in a corner chair, her legs crossed tightly, eyes fixed on her phone. She scrolled through emails, contracts, and invoices, but none of it registered. Her mind was tangled in uncertainty, wrapped around questions she hadn't wanted to face. Caleb leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed, watching her. He could see the tension coiled in her shoulders, the slight tremor in her hands, whenever her phone vibrated. It was familiar, the same way she had been with him months ago. The way he'd been before she had to fight for every ounce of attention, every fragment of trust. You've been staring at that screen for 20 minutes, he said quietly, not wanting to startle her. Maya glanced up, offering a tight smile. I'm trying to figure out everything. The gallery? Noah, everything that's come after the NICU. It's overwhelming. He moved to sit beside her. Do you want to talk about it? She shook her head, fingers gripping the edge of the chair. Talking doesn't change anything. I need solutions. You don't have to do it alone. Her eyes met his, sharp and wary. Solutions. Caleb. Not appearances, not promises. I understand, he said softly. I'm not asking for anything. Just letting you know that I'm here if you want me. The nurse walked by, wheeling a small cart, and paused. Maya, Dr. Rios wants to see you and Caleb for a brief update on Noah. Maya exhaled and stood slowly, her hand brushing Caleb's briefly. The touch lingered, a silent acknowledgement. He followed her into Dr. Rios's office, where charts and monitors littered the table. The doctor's expression was serious but calm. Both of you, Dr. Rios began, gesturing toward a seat. I wanted to update you on Noah's progress and discuss a few considerations moving forward. Caleb and Maya sat eyes on her. Noah's response to the antibiotics has been encouraging, Dr. Rios said, flipping through a page of notes. The fever has stabilized, and his vitals are improving steadily. However, his premature development means he requires careful monitoring, and some milestones will need close attention. Maya's chest tightened, the tension she had been holding erupting slightly. How close is careful monitoring? Dr. Rios looked at Caleb briefly before continuing. We're recommending physical therapy assessments for motor development, regular pediatric follow-ups, and a detailed home care plan. It's not alarming, but it's essential to establish a structured routine early. Caleb nodded slowly. I'll handle whatever we need to implement. I'll coordinate with specialists. Maya's gaze flicked toward him, a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. You mean that I do, he said, voice firm. Whatever it takes to give Noah a stable environment, I'll do it. Maya bit her lip. I keep thinking about the gallery, too. The opening, the finances, I don't know if I can balance everything. I'm scared I'll fail at both. You won't, Caleb said without hesitation. And even if you stumble, I'll help you back up. No lectures, no blame, just support. She exhaled, shoulders relaxing slightly. You make it sound simple. It's not, he admitted, but I've learned some things about priorities, about what really matters. Maya studied him, and for a long moment no words passed between them. Outside the window the city moved in endless motion, but inside the only world that mattered was here now. I'm trying, she whispered, voice trembling. Trying to be a mother, an artist, a woman who doesn't crumble under pressure. You're not alone, Caleb said gently, touching her hand. And you don't have to be perfect at any of it. Just present, just trying. Her gaze fell to their hands intertwined briefly over the polished edge of the table. I want to believe that, she said softly. Caleb's eyes softened. Then start with one thing at a time. Noah first, then the gallery, then us. Maya's head snapped up. Us, even if that us is just learning how to exist together in this new life, he said. We'll figure it out, day by day. The sound of footsteps interrupted them. Lauren entered, her expression both amused and cautious. Planning world domination, or just figuring out how to survive parenthood and an opening night simultaneously, Maya let out a soft laugh, tension easing slightly. Both. Lauren glanced between them. Caleb, you're going to have to step up not just as a father but as a teammate. Maya's not doing this alone, but she also can't carry the weight for everyone. I understand, he said, meeting her gaze. I'm here. I'll do my part. Not as a boss, not as an ex-husband, just present. Lauren studied him, then nodded slowly. Good, because she needs someone she can rely on fully right now. The nurse's voice called from the doorway. He's awake. Time for his mid-afternoon feeding. Maya and Caleb moved quickly back to the NICU, working together to lift Noah and secure him safely. As they adjusted the blanket and prepared the feeding, a quiet harmony formed between them. The small gestures, the tilt of the bottle, the gentle rocking, the whispered encouragement spoke louder than any conversation. You know, Maya said quietly, adjusting Noah's position against her chest, I thought I'd have to do all of this alone. And you've surprised me. Caleb's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. I'm not trying to surprise you, just trying to be what you need. Nothing more, nothing less. She glanced at him, searching for hidden motives, expecting the old walls of control to reappear. But he only gave her steady eyes, calm and honest. Maybe I can let go of a little control, she said softly. Maybe I can trust, day by day like you said. He smiled, faintly, relief flickering in his eyes. Then we start with today, and tomorrow we do the same. One step together. Maya nodded, looking down at Noah. The tiny fingers curling around hers, the rise and fall of his chest, every moment anchored her, reminded her that they weren't just navigating chaos. They were building a foundation. And in the quiet of the hospital room, with the city fading outside, and the soft beeps of the monitors guiding them, she realized something she hadn't dared to feel in months. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. And maybe the future wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace. The evening air was thick with tension as Caleb drove Maya home from the hospital. The city lights reflected in the windshield, blurring the lines between buildings and sky, creating a landscape that mirrored the uncertainty that had settled between them. Noah slept in the back seat, his tiny chest rising and falling with steady rhythm, a fragile reassurance against the storm of thoughts both adults carried. Maya broke the silence first. Caleb, I've been thinking about what Travis said yesterday, about the gallery sponsorship. Her fingers twisted in her lap, anxious. He made an offer, a substantial one. It would solve so many problems. Caleb kept his eyes on the road, jaw tight. "And what did you say? I haven't said anything," she admitted. "I didn't want to make a decision in front of him. Or you." He exhaled slowly, hands tightening slightly on the steering wheel. "I understand, but we need to be honest now. Are you considering it?" Maya hesitated, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. "I am, but I don't know if it's the right thing. It feels like I'm choosing a safer path instead of the one I believe in." Caleb's voice softened. "Safety isn't always wrong, but you shouldn't let fear guide your choices either." She glanced at him, eyes searching. "And what about you? What do you want?" "I want what's best for Noah," he said immediately. "And I want you to feel like you can succeed, whatever that means for you. Not what I think. Not what Travis thinks. What you want." Maya's breath hitched and she looked down at her hands. "I don't even know anymore. I'm so torn. Part of me wants to take Travis's offer and guarantee stability, but another part wants to prove I can do this on my own. On our own. I can't decide without thinking about Noah. And you?" He reached over lightly, brushing her hand with his. "You won't decide alone. I'm not going anywhere." She met his gaze, vulnerability and fear warring with trust and longing. "I'm scared," she admitted softly. "Scared that if I make the wrong choice, I'll ruin everything. Noah. Us. The gallery." Caleb's eyes softened. "Then let's not think about it as the wrong choice or the right choice. Let's think about it as the best choice for today, and we'll adjust tomorrow if we need to. Step by step." The car fell into silence again, the only sound Noah's soft breathing. For the first time, the weight between them wasn't heavy, it was shared. Arriving at her apartment, Maya unbuckled Noah and carried him inside. Caleb followed, careful not to crowd her. The space was quiet, yet the air seemed electric with unspoken possibilities. She sat on the couch, Noah in her arms, and looked at Caleb. "I've been avoiding asking this, but what happens now with us?" He knelt in front of her, eyes level with hers. "I can't promise a fairy tale ending. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I can promise I'll be present. With you. With Noah. And I'll do my best every day to be worthy of that trust." Maya's lips pressed together. "I want to believe that," she said softly. "But I need time. And proof. Not just words. You'll have it," he assured her. "Every day. No excuses." A small smile curved her lips, fleeting but genuine. "Then I'll try to trust again." He reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "That's all I ask." Noah stirred tiny hands, reaching for Caleb. Caleb leaned closer, allowing the baby to curl a fist around his finger. The warmth and weight of Noah's hand anchored him in a way that neither money nor power ever had. Maya watched them, her chest tightening with emotion she couldn't name. "He's you," she whispered, eyes glistening. Caleb shook his head slightly. "No, he's both of us, and something new, too. Something better." They sat together in silence, watching their son sleep, the tension of decisions and doubts lingering, yet softened by the realization that for the first time they were facing life as a team. And though the future remained uncertain, the gallery, Noah, the delicate balance of their rebuilt connection, they felt a shift, a turning point. They were no longer trying to navigate alone. Step by step, they would figure it out. Together. For the first time since the NICU, the fear felt manageable, and hope, fragile but real, filled the room. The afternoon light filtered through the tall windows of Caleb's loft, casting warm streaks across the hardwood floor. Noah was napping in his bassinet, small, and still wrapped in a soft blanket. Maya sat cross-legged on the couch, laptop open, but largely ignored her eyes fixed on Caleb as he moved around the room, adjusting a few papers and checking his phone. "You've been quiet," she said softly, breaking the silence. Caleb looked up, a small smile forming. "I've been thinking." Maya raised an eyebrow. About how everything fits together now," he said, pausing. "Noah, the gallery, us, not perfectly yet, but close." She tilted her head. "Close, I mean the pieces are here. We just have to figure out how to make them work." Maya closed the laptop and leaned back, hands pressed to her forehead. "It feels like so much. Noah, the gallery, my finances, my independence, and now you. I don't know if I can keep up." "You don't have to do it all alone," Caleb said, walking over and sitting beside her. His voice was gentle but firm. "I know you want to, but sometimes strength means letting someone else in." Her eyes flicked to his. "And you're really offering that? No conditions, no expectations, nothing but my support," he said. "I don't want to control anything. I just want to make sure you succeed, and Noah has both parents who care." Maya's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let down the walls she had spent months reinforcing. But the fear lingered. "And if I can't do it, if I stumble, then we stumble together," he said, voice steady. "And we get back up together. That's what being a team is." She studied him, searching for any sign of the old arrogance, the distant husband who had walked away. All she saw now was someone present, someone willing to learn, willing to try. A soft knock on the door drew their attention. Bertie stepped in carrying a small tray of sandwiches and fruit. "I figured you two could use a proper meal. No vending machine excuses tonight." Maya smiled, relief washing over her. "Thank you, Bertie." Caleb took a sandwich, and they settled into a quiet rhythm of eating, talking about the gallery and baby supplies, sharing small jokes that made the tension loosen. The air between Caleb and Maya felt lighter, but there was an unspoken weight lingering, the question of trust, of decisions that would affect Noah and the gallery. Later, Maya looked at Caleb, vulnerability showing in her eyes. "There's something I need to ask you. Something serious." He leaned forward, attentive. "Anything. The gallery opening. If I ask for your help, not money, not controlling, just presence, guidance, connections. Would you—" Her voice faltered slightly. "I need to know I can rely on you." Caleb reached out, taking her hand. "You can. I'll be there every step. Not as a boss, not as an ex, but as someone who wants to make sure you succeed. And Noah, too." Maya's lips trembled, a mix of relief and emotion. "I'm afraid to trust again," she admitted. "I know," he said softly. "And I won't ask you to. Not fully. Just let me prove it with actions, not words." A small smile broke across her face, tentative but real. Step by step, he confirmed. She glanced down at Noah, his tiny hand twitching in sleep. "Then, let's do it together. For him, for us, for everything we're trying to rebuild." Caleb squeezed her hand gently. Together. And in the soft glow of the late afternoon, with the city quieting below, and their son sleeping peacefully, Maya realized that sometimes the strongest foundation wasn't built with walls or independence. It was built with trust, presence, and the willingness to let someone stand beside you. She looked at Caleb, and for the first time in a long while, she felt hope. Not perfect hope, not certain hope, but real, fragile, and entirely theirs. The morning sunlight spilled into the small guest house Caleb had prepared for Maya and Noah. It was cozy and warm, simple, yet inviting a quiet space away from the chaos of the city and the demands of work. Noah lay in a bassinet, his tiny chest rising and falling steadily, while Maya stood near the window, sipping coffee and watching the light play across the hardwood floors. Caleb stepped in behind her, careful not to startle. "He's awake," he said softly. Maya turned a small smile, tugging at her lips. I know. I heard him stirring. She glanced down at Noah, adjusting the blanket around him. He's healthy. Stronger than I imagined. Caleb moved closer, settling into the chair beside her. He is. And he's lucky. Lucky to have you watching over him. She shook her head a little, laugh escaping. I'm lucky he has you too. He hesitated, then said quietly, Maya, I know things have been complicated. With the gallery, with Noah, with everything that's happened. But I want to do this right, for both of you. I don't want to be the absent parent again. I want to be part of your lives fully. Her hand brushed against his as she reached to straighten Noah's blanket. I want that too. But I'm scared. What if we can't get it right? What if it's too much? Caleb took a slow breath, meeting her eyes. We'll figure it out. Together. I'm not going anywhere. She looked down at Noah, then back at him. I trust you. But it's more than just trust, it's learning to believe again. That we can build something steady, something lasting. Caleb nodded. I know. And I'm ready to do the work. No shortcuts, no assumptions. Just showing up day by day for both of you. The room fell quiet, save for the soft coos and stirring of Noah. Maya's gaze softened, and she leaned slightly toward Caleb, the weight of weeks of worry and uncertainty lifting just enough to let a glimmer of hope through. I don't want to be afraid anymore, she whispered. I want to try. For him. For us. Caleb reached out gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then we start now, one step at a time. Together. Maya nodded, feeling the tension in her chest ease. For the first time since the hospital, the future didn't seem so daunting. The gallery, Noah, and their delicate connection could be managed if they faced it side by side. Caleb watched her, a quiet determination in his eyes. Whatever comes next, we handle it together. No running, no walls, just us. Maya took a deep breath, letting the words settle. Just us, she echoed, a small, tentative smile breaking through. And for the first time in a long while, the three of them, Caleb, Maya, and Noah, felt like a real family, ready to navigate the challenges ahead together. The golden light of late afternoon spilled into the small gallery space Maya had managed to secure for her New Beginnings exhibit. The walls were lined with vibrant artwork, each piece reflecting a story of resilience, hope, and transformation. It was a quiet triumph, small, humble, but entirely hers. Yet the weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders. The back rent the publicity, the fear of failure. It all converged into a tight knot of anxiety she hadn't been able to shake all week. Caleb walked beside her carrying a small bag of supplies for the exhibit. He glanced around the space, admiration in his eyes. You did this, he said quietly. All on your own, with just a little support here and there. Maya smiled faintly. A little support doesn't cover the late nights, the calls, the fear. I thought I was going to break more than once. He reached out, brushing her hand with his fingers. And yet you didn't. You kept going. That's why I'm here, to help carry the rest of it if you'll let me. She turned to him, hesitation and emotion warring on her face. I don't want this to be about you saving me, or fixing things I didn't break. I'm not trying to fix you, Caleb said softly. I'm just here. To help, to show up, to make sure Noah sees his mom's hard work paid off and that he has both of us by his side. Maya exhaled slowly, letting some of the tension slip away. All right, she said finally. We do this together. Step by step. Caleb's gaze softened. Step by step, he repeated. The gallery door opened just then, and a small group of local patrons entered, eager to view the collection. Maya's heart raced as she greeted them, the thrill of the opening night mingling with nerves. Caleb stayed close, offering support and guidance, without overshadowing her. As they walked through the space discussing the layout and positioning of the art, Maya felt the subtle shift in their relationship, the unspoken understanding that they were building something new, not trying to reclaim what had been lost. Then a familiar voice interrupted the calm. "Impressive, Maya." She turned to see Travis standing near one of the larger pieces, portfolio in hand, a polite but competitive smile on his face. "Maya," she said cautiously, "I'm glad you could make it, but everything is under control." "I know," Travis replied smoothly. "I just wanted to see the collection for myself. The theme New Beginnings, it's inspiring." Caleb stepped slightly forward, his presence protective yet composed. "Thank you, Travis. Maya has done all the hard work. We're just coordinating the final touches." Travis raised an eyebrow, eyes flicking between Caleb and Maya. "Of course. I just wanted to offer some additional publicity connections, if you're open to it." Maya's jaw tightened slightly. "We appreciate the offer, but I've decided to handle this on our own." Caleb nodded, giving her a subtle look of support. "Exactly. She's done all the work. We're here to make sure it goes smoothly, not take control." Travis smiled, a flicker of respect in his eyes, and nodded. "Understood. I'll leave you to it. The opening is going to be remarkable." As he departed, Caleb let out a quiet breath. "You handled that well." Maya looked at him, vulnerability and strength mingling in her eyes. "It's not easy having people try to influence my choices. I've spent so long learning to trust myself. And now I have to trust you too." Caleb took her hand gently. "I don't want to replace your judgment. I want to support it. And I'll do everything I can to earn your trust every day." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "I think you already are." They moved through the gallery together, checking arrangements, discussing lighting, and making small adjustments. Every interaction, every decision reinforced the growing partnership between them. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't effortless, but it was real, and it was theirs. Later, as the first guests began to appreciate the artwork, Maya paused, looking around the room. "I can't believe it," she murmured. "All of this, it's happening." Caleb stood beside her hand, brushing hers. "It's happening because of you, and because we decided to face it together." She glanced up at him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to hope not just for the gallery, not just for Noah, but for them. And in that moment, the tension, the fear, and the doubts seemed manageable, replaced by a fragile but undeniable promise. Together they could navigate the future, one choice, one step at a time. The afternoon sun was soft and golden, casting a warm glow over the backyard of Caleb's Austin home. The air smelled faintly of grilled vegetables, and fresh flowers carried over from the small party being set up to celebrate the gallery's successful opening, and more importantly, Noah's first milestone outside the NICU. Friends, neighbors, and a few of the gallery's artists had gathered, their laughter and chatter a backdrop to the scene. Maya stood near the garden table, holding Noah in her arms, watching as Caleb spoke quietly with Ms. Birdie, who had organized a small community meal train to mark the occasion. The baby was nestled comfortably against her chest, tiny fingers brushing her collarbone, eyes blinking slowly as he adjusted to the warmth of the sun and the bustle around him. Caleb glanced over at her and offered a small smile, one that was unguarded and genuine. Maya felt her chest tighten. That smile was no longer the distance between them, but a bridge. "You've come a long way," Caleb said, walking toward her. "Not just with the gallery, with us." Maya let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "I'm still figuring it out." "Then we figure it out together," he said, reaching out to gently brush a strand of hair from her face. "No expectations, no pressure, just day by day." She met his gaze, seeing the depth of sincerity in his eyes, and for the first time the fear she had carried for months seemed to loosen. Day by day she echoed. They moved through the small crowd together, greeting friends, answering questions about the exhibit, and sharing light laughter. Travis approached briefly, offering congratulations to Maya and Caleb both. His smile was genuine, but Maya could sense the unspoken acknowledgement of the bond that had formed between them. Travis tipped his head and left, leaving the couple to their own quiet relief. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Caleb and Maya found a quiet spot near the back of the garden. Noah had fallen asleep again, swaddled and resting against Maya. "I can't believe this is real," Maya whispered, staring down at her son. "After everything, after the NICU, the gallery, all the fear—" Caleb crouched beside her, brushing his thumb gently over Noah's tiny hand. "It is real, and it's ours, every bit of it. Every bit. We've fought for it, waited for it, and now we get to live it." Maya's eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of relief, gratitude, and something deeper she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. "I was so scared. I didn't know if we could make it work, if I could make it work." "You did," Caleb said firmly. "You made it through every challenge, every sleepless night, every doubt. And you're still standing. That's strength, Maya, real strength." Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. "And you've changed too, Caleb. You've been here fully. Not just for Noah, but for me. Even when it was hard." He shook his head, a soft chuckle escaping. "I had to learn. Slowly. But it was worth every step." Maya's hand found his fingers intertwining. "I never thought I'd feel this. Peace. Not with you, not with anyone. But here it is. And I don't want to let it go." "You won't," he whispered. "We won't. We'll keep building. Together. One step, one day, one choice at a time." They stood there holding hands, hearts beating in quiet sync as the warm glow of the sunset wrapped around them. Noah stirred slightly, tiny fingers curling around Maya's thumb. The soft, steady rhythm of life pulsed between the three of them, a quiet affirmation that love, resilience, and trust had formed something enduring. Caleb leaned close to Maya, voice soft. "Sometimes love isn't something you fall into. It's something you stay in. And I choose to stay. Every day." Maya's eyes glistened, and she whispered back, "And I choose to stay too." The party carried on behind them, music, laughter, and chatter mingling with the evening air. But for Caleb and Maya, the world had narrowed to the warmth of their son. Their hands intertwined, and the unspoken promise of a future they would face together. In that moment, surrounded by the life they had fought for, they realized that real happiness didn't come from perfection, wealth, or control. It came from presence, from trust, and from the choice to embrace love, courage, and family one day at a time. Noah yawned, tiny fingers brushing both their hands, and Caleb smiled down at him. "We did it, little man. We made it this far. And we'll keep going. Together." Maya rested her head against Caleb's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Together," she echoed. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the garden, they stood there, a family healed whole and ready to face whatever came next. Love, after all, wasn't about fairy tales or perfect endings. It was about choosing each other every single day and letting the heart lead the way.